sculpture, collage, store window design, I've done clothing, costume, makeup art, and most recently photography. So, I'm going to talk about first how I became an accidental self-portrait artist. I never intended to be a self-portrait artist, but it just kind of happened that way because I was school doing a lot. I was doing it pseudo-professionally for bands and stuff in the area, and I used to like to get really decked out in costumes and do really elaborate makeup and stuff like that. So I started doing makeup kind of obsessively, as you can see. I did lots of different things. This one here, I did a series after going to the Boston Aquarium of makeup inspired by tropical fish. I did a series of sugar skulls. I did tribal makeup, different tribal makeup from around the world. So eventually, I got a camera to document this makeup that I was doing. Which led me to this, which is, normally it's called a 365 project. Mine was 366 because it was a leap year. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's when you take a picture every day for a year. People do this in a lot of different ways. You can do landscapes. People do something called a Strangers Project, where you take a picture of a stranger every day for a year. There's a ton of different variations of the project, but I chose to do one that was self-portraits. I read a statistic that said 20% of people who start this project will actually complete it. I'm really proud that I'm part of that 20% now. And I started 366 as a way to learn photography, and it certainly was. It was a fiery crash course for me. And I really didn't know quite what I was getting into when I started it. It was a lot of work. It was a very trying, diligent project, but I'm really happy I pursued it. I began this project on my 33rd birthday, March 1st, 2011. This was the first picture that I did. Fairly simple. And I've included some sketches to share with you guys. Obviously, I'm not really a master illustrator here, as you can see, but I used the sketches to help me with things like composition and remembering ideas. Like a lot of the times I would get an idea really late at night, and I'd want a way to remember the idea, so I would just do these drawings. This one is actually censored for Facebook, just so you know. That's why this is going on. This was one that I was really proud of. I built this spider web out of like the cobwebs that you get around Halloween at a CVS. And I went into the woods behind my dad's house with a big ladder and a lot of coffee. And 3 days later, I had a life-size web. And it was an enormous amount of work for one photo, but it was definitely one of my favorites, so I wanted to share that with you guys. Here are some other ones. This is Medusa. My dad will like this one. This was an old antique jewelry display that my dad had up in his warehouse that I decided to crawl inside of for a photograph. It didn't occur to me at the time that there was a hole in the top of that, and we were out in the woods, and mosquitoes actually attracted to my breath, started filling up the two feathers in there. It was a rather painful self-portrait, but I survived it, so. Let's see. This was about my fear of bugs. I have an irrational fear of bugs. A lot of my themes had to do with things that I desired or things that I really feared. So I played a lot with those themes. Planet Sass. I go by the Sass Master, also Food Master Sass. Sass has always been a part of my life. So this is me hitching a ride home to my home planet, Planet Sass. This was the morning of the supposed rapture of 2011, which didn't actually happen, but for me it kind of did. And I included this photo just to share that it really takes a village. I did a whole year of self-portraits, but definitely couldn't have done it without the help of my family, my friends, and a remote. Also, people like this. My friend Kathleen, who woke up at 5 a.m. in the morning to hold that ladder, so I would get good light and not break my back falling off of the ladder. So Just wanted to share that. This is just like a still from my computer working on Photoshop, and I just wanted to share that I really love Photoshop, and I learned a ton about editing as I was doing this project. I actually enjoy the process of editing and doing Photoshop more than I enjoy taking the pictures. I would like take the pictures and then run home to my computer and work on them. So I just thought it'd be interesting to share a shot. This was in the bathtub, and because so much of my project was in the winter, I spent a lot of time indoors trying to get creative with that. So you can see the tripod in the bathtub, and a way to show you guys a shot of that. Okay, so going through the emotions. 366 was a really emotional project for me. I'm kind of an emotional girl anyway. I'm sure a few people know that here. But this project really was emotional in a lot of ways. It was a roller coaster. The reason that I say that is because this was the first project I ever really opened the doors to and shared publicly. I started a Facebook page the first day that I started taking pictures, so I would share them kind of live every day. I would be sharing these with people, and it was great because I got a tremendous community of support doing that, and it really helped me get through the hard days. I also encountered some people who didn't really like my project so much. This is a slide about that. This was something that I did where I took a bunch of different post-it notes and kind of put negative words that people had been saying about me to just kind of get me through. A lot of people thought it was very narcissistic, kind of egotistical thing to do, to take a self-portrait every day, didn't quite understand it. So in a way it was really painful, but in another way it was a great lesson too, which is not everyone's going to like and understand your art, and that's okay. Here's some of the emotions that I felt. Anger. This is how I would practice. Because I don't know if people know this, but most of us only make about 4 faces when we're taking photographs. We have the same expressions. A lot of times you'll see in most pictures you have like the same dorky smile or something, and we make the same faces. So I would have to exercise my face all the time to make my face do different things. So here I am engaging with a dinosaur. This I included because this is what I call the point of surrender, which I had a lot of, where I would take photos for hours and hate every single one of them. And it was hard because I was sharing them publicly, and then I was embarrassed because I didn't like what I took. But eventually you just have to get to the point of surrender and share something anyway. But I had a lot of days where I just felt like this. I just didn't feel like it, you know? And I think that this project mostly taught me about how to create art when you're not feeling it, when you're tired, when you're uninspired, when you're sad, when you're happy, when things are going wrong, and when you really don't feel like it. It helped me really learn how to push through with the self-discipline, so that was good. This was one that I did in front of my neighbor's house. I was really proud of this because I think 2 hours later all those flowers fell and were gone, so I really got it right in the nick of time. This was day 200. You would think that day 200 would be an awesome day for me, but I was still 166 days away from completing it. It was a really tough day, and I just included this to show you guys. Some days were just awful, but I had to shoot anyway. That one was just on my phone, I think. Okay, so Frida Kahlo, I've always looked up to my whole life. I think she's a wonderful painter, and I put this quote up. I paint myself because I am so often alone, because I am the subject that I know the best. And I really relate to that statement. People will ask me, why are you your own model? And there's a lot of reasons. The main reason is I'm reliable and I'm available 24 hours a day for myself. You can't call a model at 4 in the morning when you get an idea and say, come on over, let me glue plastic mirrors to your back or something, but I'll do that. So that worked out in that way. I feel much more comfortable when I'm the one in front of the camera, when it's just me. I learned to just let go all of my inhibitions. I did do modeling before this and during, and I just found it so much easier when I'm the one taking the picture. I can really let loose. So that's a part of why I did this. So in October of 2011, Tom Strum of the Valley Advocate contacted me wanting to do an interview about my project. and I agreed to do that. I had no idea it was going to be on the cover. I also had no idea this picture in particular was going to make the cover, so that was pretty funny. But this really helped solidify that I had to finish the project because there were many days where I just wanted to give up so bad and not do it. But once you've had like a 4-page article and a cover story published, it's hard to back out of that. So it really helped with the support of my community and showing my work to a lot of people who might not have seen it before that. I also exhibited 4 times during the project, which is something that I hadn't really done while I was like exhibiting as I was creating it. This was me hanging a self-portrait at the Who. Doing the public project really helped me with my career a lot. I ended up having my first show in New York City, which was really cool. I got a photo featured in High Times magazine from 366, and I ended up going to Holland to exhibit some of the work too. So all these incredible things were happening while I was doing it, after I did it, and because I did it. So I always say, follow your dreams, because they're going to take you places. They always do. Also, there's an expression that my mom used to say when we were kids, and I'm sure a lot of people know it, a watch pot never boils. I thought a year would go by in a flash, that a year is just like not that much time at all, but in reality, it's a long time. When you're watching it, you're taking photos every day, it's a really long time. It took a lot of stamina to get through it, so this is kind of what that photograph's about. This was in my old studio in Northampton. This was my final day. There was a lot of build up to this. I put a lot of pressure on myself to have like a really grand last picture, and I thought it was going to be just this phenomenal picture, and I literally lost sleep over it. And in the end, I just ended up with a fairly simple image. And it was really weird. When I finished 366, I thought I would feel like this freedom and very elated, and I did feel free, but I also had no idea what to do with myself after it. I just kept taking self-portraits. It's kind of like when Wile's coyote runs off the cliff and he keeps running and there's nothing underneath him. Like, I literally didn't know what to do with myself. So I just kept with that for a little while until I went on to the next thing. But it was a triumphant moment though, to actually finish it, to get to day 366 and know that I had done that. It felt really amazing. So now I'm going to share some of my favorite pictures. This was hard to do because there's so many pictures and hard to pick the ones that were my favorites, but I think these are it. This one was taken in Goshen at my dad's art sanctuary in the Ferns. It's a carousel horse he had in his warehouse. Also, I'd like to thank my dad for all the props that he let me use. It was wonderful. This was day 8. This was the first day that I felt like I nailed a photo. This was the very first time that I felt like, yes, I am proud to share this. I like what I did. I remember I had these 2 cats at the time, and they were just in the corner staring at me because I kept pouring these like buckets of paint and water over my head and moving all around and stuff. But I really enjoyed this photo, and I liked the way that it came out, and I felt good about it. This one, I also took at my dad's house in Goshen. He's probably still cleaning the glitter out of the floorboards. I basically got the idea, felt really inspired to do it, and a half an hour later was covered from head to toe in glitter and took this picture. Uncensored spiderweb photo. This is just to show you guys. This was definitely the hardest photo I think I did. Hardest physically as well, the pose. I was on a bar stool, which I photoshopped out, but holding on to 2 branches as I can hear like these thin trees creaking around me. It was pretty terrifying, but I think it was worth it. This was another one I did in Goshen. This I was pretty proud of. This was a collaboration with my friend J.L. Draco, and he actually made the mask. But what I love about this photo is none of that is makeup. That was the first time I did all of the makeup was done in Photoshop. So all the brown parts you see, it's all Photoshop. And once I learned how to do trick photography, I would give myself multiple arms, often little ears whenever I felt like it, wings on everything. It's too much fun. Here's one. Here's another. Rough morning. This one was also taken in Goshen at my dad's sanctuary where they were bulldozing these big holes, and I was watching Walking Dead at the time. I kept walking by it and I kept saying, that's a zombie hole, that looks like a zombie hole. And one morning I said to my dad, that looks like a zombie hole, and he said, well, you better get in there and take a picture because they're going to come fill it right in the morning. And this was winter, it was freezing, I remember this so well. I was so cold inside that hole taking these pictures, and these people are coming to my dad's sanctuary, these little old ladies, like, just staring at me like, I think I really scared them. But I scared a few people with this picture. I really like this one too because so many of my pictures have to do with like femininity and beauty and whatnot. It felt great to just play this gruesome, terrible character. I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed playing a lot of different characters. I guess I have multiple personalities or something. This one's kind of a statement about escapism in art. I feel like I use my art to travel to places that I might not ever be able to go myself. I can't afford to go, but through my art, I take myself a lot of different places. So it's just drawing. These were some of the black and white shots that I did. Oops. Sorry. There we go. I discovered during this project, when I first started, my signature thing was kind of that I was really oversaturated colors. I love colors, I've always loved color. And I would just make my colors as bright and as vibrant as humanly possible, almost too much, usually a little too much. But that was kind of my thing, and I really like to do that. But doing this project, I realized that I love black and white, and I think black and white portrays something that color can't, just this emotion that I don't get in the rest of my photos. So I was glad and grateful for this project too, because I don't think I would have known that had I not done this. This was my first levitation. This woman, Sarah Ann Lawrence, who's a great photographer, she lived in New Hampshire at the time, kind of walked me through this, and it's a very easy photo trick, but can take a lot to do in Photoshop, whereas just you take two pictures. Basically, I was on a stool in one picture, and then you take out the stool, and then you take the same picture, and in Photoshop you get rid of it. Fairly simple thing to do, but I was pretty proud. That was like a milestone. I did do a lot of different photo manipulations and stuff while I was doing this too. This was in my dad's wood pile in his backyard, and one of his gardener people who was there, it was funny because after I took the picture, he came up to me and said, "God, girl, you got balls." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I can't believe you got in that pile with all those snakes in there." I had no idea there were snakes in there. I would have never had them there. It was pretty funny, so I wanted to include that one. Yes, I learned to clone myself. That was fun. This was also a statement that I spent a lot of time alone during this project in solitude, so I just thought it'd be funny if I could play Uno with myself. So I did, because I could. I don't even know what to say about that. I just thought it was a fun one that I wanted to include. This one, I remember I did this in Northampton. When you're doing a project like this, you also have to anticipate that you're not alone. Like, it became performance art every day. It was so funny. I would get little crowds of people watching and neighbors. I remember my neighbors watching out their window as they were doing dishes, little old lady looking at me like I was a total nutball. And yeah, this one was in Northampton. This one is called Broken. So here's another thing, like as you're doing a project like 366, you're living your life and everyone has different things happen in their years. And one of the things that happened in my year that year was that I broke up with somebody, and that was kind of hard to keep going in this project publicly. I was very, a little upset and having a hard time. So I just worked with those emotions. Anything that I felt, I would actually work with instead of just trying to pretend it wasn't happening. I used it as fuel. for my art. Pirates of Goshen. This one's definitely, obviously, a photo manipulation. Yes. Although the tequila bottle is real, and the anchor thing with the steering wheel is real, and the hat is real, pants are real, the rest is not. This was a vintage one that I did. I had a lot of fun learning this to do different vintage textures and sepia tones to make photos look older than they actually were. That was fun. This one, a lilac bath. This was kind of crazy because this took 5 grocery bags full of lilacs to do. And I was living in this apartment that had this tiny bathroom, and I remember coming home and I filled the bathtub with lukewarm water, and then I put all the flowers in, and it made this intoxicating scent. The whole room steamed up, and I almost passed out. It was crazy. And I remember thinking to myself, when are you ever going to be in a bathtub full of flowers like this again in your life? You should just enjoy this. And I did. I love that picture. That was so fun. It was a really wonderful memory. And that's the great thing about this project too, is it's a visual diary. Every single one of these pictures, I know exactly where I was, who I was with, what I was feeling, It's pretty neat to have references like that. This is another fae, kind of fairy one that I did. I love the woods, I love fairies, and I love making ears and putting them on myself. This one was the one that my lovely man suggested I end this with. This is one of my favorite photos I've ever taken, and definitely one of the most popular too. It was kind of about weight, and I've definitely gone up and down in my lifetime with weight and struggled with that a lot. And this is just a statement on that. No matter what weight you are, you're perfect, and we're all kind of perfect in our imperfections. So that was my 366 project. And what I'm doing now is a website called Northampton Through My Eyes. It's on Facebook, and I'm taking pictures of Northampton, the community, the people, and the buildings, and landscapes. And I also have a photography page, Megan A. Lamont Photography. I'm continuing with self-portraits and also portraits of other people. And yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Megan. That was beautiful. So, do we have any questions for Megan?
How
did you find the time to do this?
Aha! I knew you were going to ask that. Well, it's kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to say it anyway. I lost my job. For the first time in my life, I lost a job. And I didn't have a job, and I all of a sudden had an opportunity to take the bull by the horns and make my art for a year. So me and my dad, who is the one who just asked that question, had a conversation, and I remember we were sitting in a diner, and he said, "Are you ready to eat soup for a year? Because that's all you're going to eat if you do this. You know that." And I said, "Yep." And I basically made my art my priority, and that's how I had time. I made the time and did it.
Did you set a goal for yourself to share each photo on the day you took it?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and that was hard because there was definitely times where I wouldn't even remember. I'd gone to a party one time and at 5 midnight I was like, "Oh my God, I forgot." But I always tried to do it the same day, even if it meant I didn't like the picture. Yep.
Were all your Photoshop skills self-taught, or did you?
No, well, kind of. I took a class at GCC in my very early 20s, and then when I started doing Photoshop again, it started coming back to me. And I had a friend the person who designed the mask also helped me learn some Photoshop skills. And then I watched a lot of tutorials too on YouTube and learned as much as I could on my own. Yes?
Did the last photo was perfect?
Uh,
Did you add the hearts to the tiles, or were they
they were there.
there? Nice.
Thanks. Anyone else? Oh.
For individual photos, it doesn't require a lot of actual manipulation. Do you use what programs do
Photoshop, mostly Photoshop. No,
I have a question.
yes.
How has this impacted your life since the 366?
Oh my God, so much. The biggest way is that a lot of people recognize my work that might not have known before. That's like probably the biggest. I don't know, a lot of different ways. It really taught me a ton about self-discipline and, trooping through things that are difficult. It brought me a lot of amazing opportunities too, and I met a lot of great people through it and made a ton of connections. And I went to a foreign country and talked about it, and that was just incredible to me. So I think a lot of these things wouldn't have happened had I not done this project and shared it publicly. I think it's both of those things that made it what it was. Oh, yeah.
So how important is process for you? So I ask this because I've done this too, and I have some experience with this, that this sort of thing, some of these steps, as you said, obviously one took 3 days.
Mhm.
So is the final result, where's the weight for you? Is the final
Oh,
result
yeah.
as important as the process of doing it? Where is your focus?
I think my focus is more on the process of doing it,
Yeah.
not so much the photo.
I
Like
can
the
tell by
photos,
the way you talk. Yeah.
yeah, the photo is the reward, but the process is what's important to me. And the process is what helped me learn everything that I know, so.
Very cool.
And actually, after I stopped doing 366, I stopped processing as much, which was interesting because I didn't do as much Photoshop anymore because I did it so heavily during this project that I felt like I could finally just take pictures and let it be that, Anyone else?
Can you say something about how you timed the camera so you could get in the position? How did you, were you doing all the shooting?
I was doing all the shooting and with a remote. I couldn't have done it without a remote. I went through 4 remotes during this project. Lose a lot of stuff, but yeah, I could never have done it without a remote.
Mirrors
Sometimes mirrors, yep. I would use a mirror occasionally, but mostly just a remote. And on my camera, I had the screen would flip in the direction towards me, so I could see what I was doing, which was very helpful. But yeah, definitely couldn't have done it without a remote. Because now I have a 12-second timer too on another camera that I have, and to try to get into a comfortable pose in 12 seconds is not the easiest thing in the world. So, anyone else?
I don't know if you mentioned it already, but how did you find out about the 365 project?
Okay, a few different ways. My friend Beth Mantrowski, who I don't know if anyone's heard of here, she's a really great photographer. She had done the project previously, so I had talked with her about it, and just I've heard about a lot of people doing it, and I'm on Flickr, so I was following different groups that were doing it. So I just seen a couple friends do it, and I decided I wanted to try. Yeah. Anyone else? Oh.
How did you get the peeling effect?
How did I do that? Using layers. I used layers of pictures that I had taken of paint on my dad's cellar door, and then kind of painted them on my body with Photoshop for that picture.
Did you have any rules about what was going to be in the photographs?
No, that was the one rule that I had, to not have the rules. Yeah. Yep. Anyone else?
When's your book coming out?
Yeah.
Good question. I don't know. I'd love to do a book eventually. Not sure yet.
You talked about all the criticism that you got in some points. Is that just ongoing through the whole project, or is there one moment where it happened all and everybody recovered from it?
I recovered from it. It varied. It happened about 4 different times during the course of a project. People getting like really fixated on the idea that I was just some crazy egomaniac, narcissistic woman that just was like the Antichrist. So it was difficult. I won't lie, it was hard because when you're doing art is a very personal experience anyway, and then when your face is on it and your body's on it, it feels even more personal because if people are, kind of dissing it, it feels like they're actually dissing you. But it taught me a lot about to not take it so personally. And I think I have recovered from it, but it was kind of an ongoing thing during the project. I definitely encountered that, and still encounter that doing self-portraits. I think some people just don't quite understand that the urge to, that I'm kind of fascinated by myself, because I'm very close to myself. I'm alone all the time, so it came natural to me, but not everyone understands it, so. Anyone else? Oh.
being in that successful 20% that completed it, if someone was to decide to do a project like this, what sort of advice would you give them?
I would give the advice that if you start this project and do not complete it, to start it again. No matter how many times it takes you to keep trying, because right after I did this project, I did another project called Water Women, and I did 20 portraits of women in the valley and water, and that was great. And then I tried to do a 52-week project and made it 3 weeks and failed miserably. But the thing is, like, if you just keep trying, eventually you will get it. I would say diligence and determination and self-discipline are what the project's all about. So just keep trying. If you don't get it on the first try, you will.
Maybe that's a good metaphor for life in general.
I think so.
I think that was fantastic, Megan. Thank you so much. Once again, if anyone has some more questions they want to ask Megan, feel free to come up to her after the event, which is sort of kind of now. So, but feel free to hang out. There's no one's kicking you out of here. The bar's still open, and you can hang out and schmooze, and I'll be hanging out. So thank you all for coming. It was amazing to see you all, see all these beautiful faces. So please come to the next Nerd Night, and we'll see you.